Hey guys, welcome back to the channel where we're checking out a video recommended by Annie. And Annie says that please could you react to this one. The title is Visiting the Largest Military Cemetery in France. Whew, it's a crazy title. I actually never thought, that there would be one of these in France. Obviously, most countries have militaries that are active, and most countries were involved in World War II, World War I, and France is literally one of those countries. So I never really thought about it, but obviously there might be a cemetery separated for the military. But nonetheless, we'll be checking out this video. It is coming from the History Underground YouTube channel. A link will be in the description, so you guys can actually check out the original video and show some love to the creator of that video. But yeah, we're gonna be checking out this video right now. So thank you for watching. If you have any recommendations, leave us in the comment section down below, or preferably click that link in the pinned comment section where you can recommend videos about France, and I'll check them out as soon as possible. Without further ado, let's check it out.
I've said before that
That's a lot.
in order to fully understand and appreciate World War II, a person really needs to understand and appreciate World War I. The Great War left a scar, literally and figuratively, across the nation of France that would have ripple effects for generations. Right now, I'm in the area of Arras. I'm going to be here for a few days, kind of exploring the history of the First World War in this area. And I just happened to drive by this French cemetery right here. Driving around, there are cemeteries everywhere in this area. You don't even have to look for them. They're just all over the place. And this one right here, as big as it is not even the biggest one in this area.
Shit. That's a lot of bodies, man. I love how neatly put together it is, though. I love that. It's very respectful. I love that.
In 1914, the unstoppable force full-on clashed into the immovable object here on the Western Front. And as the Central Powers and the Allies found themselves becoming more and more entrenched and not being able to go through each other, the next available option was to try and go around. This started something that became known as the Race to the Sea, where both the Allies and the Central Powers were trying to outflank each other to get to the English Channel first. Well, if you would have been a French citizen during this period of time, you would not want your village or town to be in the path of these two juggernauts. And the spot where I'm at right now, in Ablain, Saint-Nazaire, found themselves in that unfortunate position. I want you to think for a moment about the community that you live in. Think about what it would be like if war came to the place where you live and you had to evacuate. And when you came back, there was nothing left. It was just rubble. Well, that is exactly what happened to Ablain Saint-Nazaire. So if you look at this town, it doesn't look like there's anything that's just like exceptionally old by European standards. That's because there's nothing in this town that is older than
Probably
1918, 1920. This whole village had...
It's the exact same thing with Finland. It's in Poland as well. A lot of places in Poland, Finland, absolutely destroyed. So you don't actually have that history aspect to it. In fact, majority of the world, that's the case because, when people move to a different location, they typically destroy what was already there, which is why invasions, wars, they all suck because they wipe out somebody else's history.
To be completely rebuilt. Just absolutely awful. Alblain Saint Nazaire sits at the base of a ridge, and this was in German hands at the end of 1914 and through the spring of 1915. And the Germans wanted to keep it, and the French wanted to take it back. And the only thing left from the war is this shell of the church. So if we go up here, we'll get up on the other side of this fence, you can see the only thing that I guess you could say survived from the fighting that took place here in the First World War. The Germans had this set up as an artillery observation position. The French knew it, and they just bombed the heck out of this church to deny the Germans a artillery observation position. This was a 16th century church, so it was a historic church, and yeah, you can see what happened to it. After the war, rather than rebuild the church right here, they decided to leave this shell as an everlasting reminder
exactly
of what had happened in this village. And then they built a new church up the hill. And just beyond this is the high ground that the French were wanting to desperately take back, and they would expend thousands upon thousands of lives to make it happen.
I had no idea this would have been such a sad video. Shout out to this guy for actually giving me some history of France, because I had no idea. World War One, like, nobody really talks about it. The people with a lot more brains would actually talk about it, because even Hitler was actually, based on stories that I've heard, I can never confirm nor deny, but I've heard this, that he was actually a soldier during World War One. Right? So it's actually, very important. World War One. It's very important.
I've made my way up to the top of the plateau of the Notre Dame de Lorette, and once you get up here, you can see why the Germans were fighting so hard to keep this position and why the French wanted it so bad. I mean,
You can
the
see
view from
everything.
here is spectacular. So obviously for any army, this is going to give a commanding view of everything around, be good for artillery position and spotting, things like that. And there was some vicious fighting that took place here in the early part of World War II. Everybody focuses on Verdun, but there was some heavy combat that took place here on this plateau. So the Germans originally occupied it, I think, in October of 1914 in the Race to the Sea. And then the French ended up fighting them for it over like the next 6 months. And then eventually were able to take it. So here on this plateau, there's like 5 different spurs that come off of it. So each one of those spurs had to be taken. And it is now the site of the largest French military cemetery in France. I've now moved into the cemetery here at Notre Dame de Lorette, and standing here, you can really get a sense of the scale of loss and sacrifice that France experienced during the First World War. There are over 40,000 graves in this cemetery.
Damn.
Well, standing here and looking at all of these rows of crosses back to back is really sobering. If you look at the view in front of us now,
It's insane.
we are only looking at half of the cemetery, and these rows of crosses go on for as far as the eye can see. Now, originally, again, as I mentioned, this is a battlefield right here that we are standing on. There was a small chapel up here that had been built in the late 1700s, and this was kind of like a pilgrimage place for a lot of people. Well, the chapel, of course, was completely destroyed. What we're seeing here is a chapel that was rebuilt after the war. And the French official history...
I genuinely, like, now thinking about this video and thinking about what's going on in the world, I really am confused as to why our leaders always try to lead us into these situations. It's confusing because it just doesn't lead to any form of success.
Talked about the conclusion of this battle, and it says the Germans were beaten and the chapel in ruins was left behind. Beyond was an inextricable, chaotic tangle of underground passages and shelters, mine craters and shell holes, encumbered with dead, arms and equipment and stores. So this place was just completely devastated after the battle, and then became a bit of a collection cemetery for the French, where in the area of the Pas de Calais, where they brought their dead and buried them. One of the more prominent features here in this cemetery is this lantern tower. This was built in the years after the war to commemorate the fallen of France here in this area. And inside, they also have the remains, unknown remains of a soldier from the Second World War, and also war in North Africa, and also the French War in Indochina. Unfortunately, we cannot go in there today because they are doing some restoration work. I don't claim to do a lot of things well, but one of the things that I excel at is showing up to sites on days when they are doing some kind of construction work. But here's something else that I can show. I want you to take a look at these two seemingly empty plots. So if we walk over here, you'll notice that there are no headstones in here. It's just this walled off portion.
Please don't tell me it's like a section where there's just like bodies on bodies on bodies placed there, because likely the persons couldn't be identified or something of the sort. There was just so much people that died. Oh, please. Oh, there's literally a stone right there saying something, and I'm just so... I'm nervous. What is he going to say?
Of the cemetery. But it is not empty. Inside of these walls, as we can see right here, are the unknown remains of 4,563 soldiers. And then if we go over here, again, we have another one of these seemingly empty plots, but this is another mass grave holding the remains of 5,649 soldiers. So just to give you a little bit of perspective or something to compare to, just in these two plots alone, there are more soldiers buried than in the entire Normandy American Cemetery. And these aren't the only spots like this in this place. And that is something else. Typically when I visit these cemeteries, I try and highlight some of the soldiers who are interred there and tell their stories. To be honest, that's difficult for me here. For English speakers, there aren't a whole lot of resources out there for French military history, at least not that I'm aware of, and that's a shame because I really want to learn more. Here's what I do know. This is the grave of Ernest Barbeau, To my knowledge, he's the highest ranking individual buried here. He was the commander of the 77th Infantry Division, which fought here in this area. And where the present-day Cabaret Rouge Commonwealth War Grave Cemetery is, he had established a headquarters in a trench and was hit by shrapnel while running across open ground. He was mortally wounded and died later at a dressing station. There's a memorial to him down in Souchez, to him and the 77th. But anyway, here's the grave of Ernest Barbeau. All right, now I mentioned how this cemetery sits on a battlefield. We've talked a little bit about some of the vicious fighting that took place here in 1914 and 1915, and I want to show you what I just found. So if you look here, you can see that the groundskeepers have plowed up all of the ground in front of these crosses, probably getting ready to plant some new flowers. And I was walking by and just happened
Is that a round?
to see this shell casing
Yeah.
laying right here in the dirt.
That's crazy.
That is something else. Here, all of these years later, the battlefield is still giving up some of its secrets. I mentioned how, as an English speaker, it's sometimes difficult to get access to French military history when it comes to the Great War beyond anything that's just kind of surface level, which is really a shame. So I will freely admit that when it comes to the French actions here on the plateau of Notre Dame de Lorette, my knowledge is kind of limited, but that's why I'm here, here to learn. What we are looking at right now is a monument to General Maistre, I think is how you say his last name. He was the general in command of the French 21st Division. That is the division that ended up securing these heights in the spring of 1915, and I really like this monument. You can see he's there with a regular soldier, and he's standing among these pockmarked ruins. This monument was dedicated in May of 1927, so within 10 years of the end of the war, and is placed at the spot that is thought to be the command post of General Maistre. All right, so that was a little bit from the cemetery, but there's one more memorial that they have up here that I really want to show.
I knew it. I was gonna say it. I was like, so what's behind you? Like this black thing right here. What's going on?
Memorial that they have up here that I really want to show. So we've just entered into the Ring of Remembrance, and what you are looking at are all of these panels, and on these panels are over 580,000 names of soldiers who died, not in just World War I in general, but World War I in the Pas-de-Calais region. So just this region where we are today. That is absolutely wild. And
wait, he said 580,000. No way.
The 580,000 names are from all nationalities. They're all in alphabetical order. They're not divided up by country. So you have Germans, Belgians, French, British, people from all over the world whose names are here on these walls. Just kind of adding weight to the overall tragedy of this conflict.
Wow.
I'm just going to point out a few names etched into these panels. Here is the name of Francois Fabre. Francois Fabre was the winner of the 1909 Tour de France and was killed here in this area. So here we have an elite athlete who lost his life in the Great War. Here in the K section, we have the name John Kipling. This man was the son of author and poet Rudyard Kipling. There in the middle of the screen, you can see the name Paul Malk. Paul Malk was a soldier in the German army and is thought to be the youngest enlisted soldier who was killed during the war. He died in June of 1915 and was 14 years old when he died.
No way.
Here among all of the names on this panel, you come across one that is a little bit different. This name right here, that of Joseph Standing Buffalo. Joseph Standing Buffalo fought with the Canadians and was killed in September of 1918 in the area of Arras, and was the grandson of Chief Sitting Bull. So Chris Mowry, on one of his channels, I think it will at the time that I'm filming this, I think it's going to be on his Stories of the Great War channel, is going to be visiting the grave of Joseph Standing Buffalo. So you'll want to check that out.
Wow. This is so sad. It's just horrible what wars do, bro. Like, this is so sad.
At the beginning of this video, I made the comment that in order to fully understand and appreciate the Second World War, you really need to understand and appreciate the First World War. And I think coming to places like this really helps with that. I know, speaking from an American perspective, when you get to World War II, it's pretty easy to make derisive comments about the fact that, you know, France surrendered to the Germans in 1940. But when you come to places like this and you see the scale of the loss that France endured in the First World War,
You just don't want to repeat that.
it gives you pause. Maybe it wouldn't be so easy for them to just jump right back into another war after having lost an entire generation and had towns and cities destroyed. But anyway, those are just a few things that I've been thinking about today as I've been walking the ground here. But that was a little bit from here at Notre Dame de Lorette.
It's beautiful. I hate that it's beautiful, but it is beautiful. Man, this was a tough video. I honestly didn't think it was a video that was this emotional. A lot of history behind all those crosses, and man, all from World War One. The circle right there, 580,000 people died in just that region. Damn, bro, I don't want to see World War III. I just don't want to see it, bro. Like, I don't want to see it. Man, wow. This is terrible, dude. But yeah, this was a very good video. Shout out to the History Underground YouTube channel. This was phenomenal. Man, just being able to actually see something or see somewhere where a lot of people has died, it makes you feel a lot different, you know. Like, I'm not sure how many people in this world have been to locations where there has been mass casualties, but I know for myself, being in New York, where there is the Twin Tower and so on and so forth, just seeing those stones reminding you that this event took place, it's like an out-of-body experience, you know. It feels weird, feels very different. So I imagine for the French people who live there, who gets to see that every day, it should be a little bit different of a feeling, you know. It's not like a normal grave where it's just people grow old, sickness. This is fight and battle, and it's a lot more hard on the human body, my humble opinion. But I appreciate this video. Thank you for the recommendation. Shout out to the History Underground YouTube channel. Link will be in the description, like I said before, so you guys can check out the original video. Thank you for watching. I'm out of here. Peace.